had a huge year. Grand Ole Opry debut, major label debut album, late night TV debut. Take me back to February when you made that Opry debut and you stepped in that circle for the first time.
Man, that was super special. My whole family got to be there for it, which was super cool. I miss most everything being on the road as much as I am. So the fact that they were able to make that was cool. But man, the Opry was something that I had always kind of had in the back of my mind of, what do you have to do to get to play that? When do you, qualify to play the Grand Ole Opry? And so I'd kind of been thinking about it a lot more than usual when I got the call that we were going to get the debut there. So getting to step in that circle and actually do it and sing some songs I'd written was I'll just never forget it. It was so cool. That's the mother church.
So you do remember it? It wasn't just a complete blur?
Man, I don't really remember being out on stage a whole lot. It feels like it was the blink of an eye. You kind of walk out and all of a sudden you're walking back off stage, but it was magical.
Do you remember when they brought out that platinum plaque for Pretty Heart signifying 1 million units? Do you remember that
Yeah,
part?
they did that right before I went on stage. So, like 2 minutes before I went on stage, they walked in the green room with the plaque. And I had no idea that it was even close to going platinum. I didn't know how any of that worked. So that was, I got it right here. It's sitting behind me. So,
Oh, I want to see it. Pull it up here. I thought it'd be on your wall. Oh, awesome, man. Yeah, that's great. I mean, 1 million units. That's pretty amazing.
yeah, man, I remember being a kid, and you hear about your favorite artist getting gold records or platinum records or whatever, and watch like MTV Cribs, and they got them on their wall and stuff. So when I finally got me a couple, that was I didn't take it lightly at all. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, you just made me feel real old with the MTV Cribs reference. So that's fun, man. So you released your major label debut, Gold Chain Cowboy, in July. Here we are 5-6 months later. Have you been able to take just kind of a deep breath, relax, and appreciate that, or has it just been go, go, go since then?
Man, I bought this house I'm living in right now in April, and I think I've slept here 25 nights since April. So there hadn't been a whole lot to sit back and smell the roses or anything like that yet. Well, which is, I guess, kind of what I'm doing right now during the holidays. But man, it's just been crazy. Last year was so much uncertainty, with the world shutting down, and kind of right when I was finally really getting my big shot, and didn't know how things were going to end up, or I was like, maybe we just missed everything we ever worked for. So to come back and have a year like we've had, and man, it just I sleep a lot better at night towards the end of this year than I did at the beginning.
Well, I don't think you missed it, because if you look at your single right now, To Be Loved by You, it's on the charts right now, inching closer to that top 10. Man, it's going to get there. After scoring that number one hit with Pretty Heart about a year ago right now, what have you learned just kind of about song selection when it comes to country radio? Because country radio can be fickle.
Man, I really put no thought, and it never crosses my mind when writing or writing for a record or sitting around the house writing. Never really at one time have I thought, maybe this song can't be on the radio or whatever. I just, write what feels good, and kind of, whatever needs to come out at the time, is really kind of why I write songs and get that stuff out. And so as far as country radio goes, I kind of leave that up to the label on, what song they feel like they have the best shot to have a hit with.
Yeah.
So I just write them, and I've been writing songs a lot longer than they have, and they've been pushing songs for radio a lot longer than I have. So it's a pretty good team.
Yeah, let them do their job. You just released an NFT through Music FX. So as far as I know, you're one of the first country artists, if not the first, to do an NFT. For an old man, give me NFT for dummies.
Man, so essentially it's a digital copy of, it can be an image or some sort of, a lot of ours, hold incentives. We kind of did it as a fan club, which is really a way for my fans to, be a part of something that is limited. Once it's sold out and filled up, you can no longer buy these or enter this fan club at all. So it's basically a digital token that they can possess, and with our fan club deal, a certain number of these are what we call gold cards, and it's totally random. When you buy one, I guess you have a 1 in 1,000 chance of having a gold one, and so that could be anything from going to the ACMs as my guest or VIP meet and greet or coming and sitting in on a sound check at a big show or whatever. It's really whatever your imagination wants it to be. But it's really just an opportunity for a fan to have a digital piece of me, really, and have that exclusive access to all the kind of cool stuff that we always got going on behind the scenes action.
So I sat down with Randy Rogers earlier this year,
Yeah.
and your name came up, and he mentioned specifically just kind of mentoring younger artists, some of the advice that he's been able to share, because, he, like you, a Texas guy who's been on the scene, he's been on the scene 25 years now. But I know it's nice. It's got to be nice for you to have these kind of Texas guys watching your back, especially Randy. Talk to me just for a minute about what your friendship with Randy and kind of his mentorship has been like for you.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's crazy. When I was a kid, I was a super fan of Randy Rogers. My brother was in college in Stephenville, Texas, where they played pretty often at the time, and I was still in grade school. And he had come home one time and had a Randy Rogers Band album, and I was wanting to do whatever Big Brother was doing. Whatever he did was what I thought was cool, and he was listening to Randy Rogers Band, trying to write songs, and so to go from that to being mentored by him, and now he's one of my best friends in the world, and managed me for 2 years before I switched over to Red Light, who manages the Randy Rogers Band also. It was a dream come true. Exactly how I remember being in high school and thinking about being the kid that grew up idolizing those guys, and then kind of got to be in that circle with them and have their support, and kind of really have the opportunity to carry on what they started, and man, without Randy Rogers, I don't know where I would be. I mean, he took time out of his personal life to come to Nashville and to get me a publishing deal, and came back when it was time to get a record deal, and we had a record offer from every major label in town, and he would come to every one of those meetings with me and tell those people, lie to them, and say, if you pass on this kid, you're passing on the next George Strait. I can remember him saying that in every one of those meetings. And I'm just sitting over there like, golly, what are you doing? That's a lot to live up to. But he was instrumental in me getting anywhere in this business, especially in the town of Nashville. And he was the one who pushed me to come to this town, and told me if I wanted to get to where I was trying to go, this is where I had to come to and start hustling and working and grinding out. So, man, I owe so much to him. I cherish our friendship a whole lot, and always will be grateful for what that man did for me.
Yeah, he's one of the good ones. And speaking of these Texas artists that I know that you grew up listening to, because I've heard interviews with you and I've heard you cover their songs in concert, Pat Green, Townes Van Zandt, Robert Earl Keen. And one I want to talk about specifically is Chris Knight, who I personally believe is the most underrated singer-songwriter alive today.
Probably,
I've
yeah.
heard you cover his songs, man. What's the best Chris Knight song? Where are you going?
Man, I guess it really depends on my mood. One that I played a lot before I even had a band. I played it at every acoustic show I could possibly get. I would play enough rope, and that song always seems to connect with people. People always play it, and people go, "Did you write that?" And I'm like, "Man, had I written that, I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now." But yeah, he's one of my favorite artists of all time. The first song I ever learned to play and sing on guitar was "Framed" by Chris Knight, and I've been a fan of his since I was a little kid. And man, I kind of go through phases of what I'm listening to and kind of what I'm digging into musically, and I never can escape Chris Knight's records. It always seem to come back around, and every time I get back into him, I'm just blown away at how talented he is.
Yeah, I was spinning North Dakota and Old Man this morning, and to me, he's one of the top 3 or 4 best out there.
Yeah, Rural Route is one of my favorite songs by him too.
And that's when I knew I was going to like your music, when I heard you talking about all the guys that you grew up listening to and that you liked. I said, all right, he's into Hayes Carl and Randy Rogers and Wade Bowen and Robert Earl. And so, throw Parker in there, put it on the playlist.
That's awesome, man. Thank you. That's when I was a kid, that's all I wanted. So that's pretty cool to hear.
So you grew up outside of Houston, lived in Austin for a bunch of years. Tell me where the best barbecue in Texas is.
Terry Black's Barbecue on Barton Springs in Austin, Texas, just south of the river, man. You cannot beat the moist brisket. It is phenomenal.
I asked this question to all the Texas guys, and they go back and forth, and they give me 10 names, and they name cities, and what you just did was give me the perfect answer. You didn't think about it. You knew it.
Yeah.
We're going, right? We're going to go get some brisket?
Yeah, I lived probably I don't know, 1,000 yards from Terry Black's for, the last 3 or 4 years before I moved up here. And man, I ate there probably 1,000 times in the time that I lived there. And every time I go home, my dad still lives in Austin. Every time I go home, like for Thanksgiving, we had Terry Black's cater we had so many people, instead of cooking, we just had Terry Black's cater. So we're fans for sure.
Now that you're in Tennessee, and I'm born and raised Tennessee, so we're pork butt and we're ribs. Have you been able to find some good barbecue in town?
Man, the only place, I don't know, it's not barbecue, it's fried chicken, but Prince's Fried Chicken, which is kind of that old school, it kind of gives you that old school barbecue vibe. I've been there a couple times. The old school one on the other side of town is really, really phenomenal.
Yeah,
I haven't eaten a lot of barbecue here.
Well, you got to get into. We got Peg Leg and Martin's and Judge Beans. We got some good ones. So get out there and get you a pork rib and pulled pork sandwich.
Yeah, I'll have to do that, man. I need to write that down.
I'll give you a whole list when we're done. All right, man. Tell me what's coming down the pike for you in 2022. I looked at your tour schedule. A lot of people slow down right now, but you've already got 20, 25 dates on the slate for 2022.
Yeah, we're booked all the way till I'm done on November 12th of next year. I'm done touring. So I'm off to the 30th of this month, and then starting on the 30th. Our next year starts on the 30th of December. So we'll be cranking. Man, we'll probably play 140 shows next year. I'm writing right now, trying to put this new album together. I got no idea when that will, come to some sort of resolution and be ready to be put out. But it's a lot, man. This is the busiest I've ever been in my entire life. The grind is incredibly real. But man, it's so much better than pouring concrete or selling cars. It's easy to work hard and when you love what you do, right? You never work a day in your life. So I'm kind of living that quote day in and day out right now.
And we're going to watch To Be Loved by You crack that top 10 and get up maybe another number one. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I really, I'd be lying if I said I paid attention to it at all. Whether it goes number one or it falls off the charts tomorrow, I got to keep going and writing songs and putting out music. So I get a text message from management, every now and then, hey, it's here, it's whatever. But I don't even know how to look it up or where to go to see where it's at on the chart. So I'm just hustling right now. And if it goes to the top, great. If it doesn't, Amarillo by More Than One wasn't a number one. So it's not the end of the world. You
keep hustling, man. Hey, is that a turntable behind you? Are you a vinyl guy, or is that just a speaker?
I don't have a turntable right now, but I have a pretty solid vinyl collection. But I don't have a turntable right now. I've got a mad collection though.
Tell me give me some vinyl spins for you. I'm a huge vinyl guy. I love vinyl, so I'm.
And we got the cassette. We got Sob Rock by John Mayer on cassette. It's still in the wrapper. This is a small portion of it. We got Sob Rock on vinyl. We got old Lightning Hopkins record on vinyl. This is actually, that's a Statesboro Review. It's Bruce Springsteen. Those are all broken now. Man, this is, Black and Blue, one of my favorite records by Gary Clark Jr. That was one of the first records I ever bought at Waterloo in Austin. Another Gary Clark Jr. record, Leon Bridges. There's Casey Musgrave's Christmas album, Heavier Things by John Mayer, still in the wrapper. Battle Studies by John Mayer, still in the wrapper. Paradise Valley by John Mayer, still in the wrapper. Great Norah Jones album right there. That's her live at Austin City Limits record. Super, super good record right there. One of my all-time favorite albums ever is Heartbreaker by Ryan Adams. Probably that record probably influenced more songs of mine than almost anybody else. I forgot about some of these. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. It's a lot of good music in here, man.
Well, tons of good music. I got one more question for you, and then I'll let you go. I talked to a lot of songwriters in town, Nashville songwriters, and John Mayer's name always comes up. Always. When I ask him the 5 songs that influenced them, every other songwriter mentions him. What is it about and you mentioned him a couple times with just the albums that you've got. Tell me about just his influence on you as a songwriter, if he has been a big influence.
Yeah, I always say he's top two all time for me. It's him and George Strait. But man, I feel like his guitar playing gets so much credit, and his musicianship gets so much credit, but his songwriting, I'm not sure, gets near the credit that it deserves. He's never cut a cheesy song, never cut a funny song, which is really big for me. I really don't enjoy those songs, and I don't write them well or have any desire to write songs like that. But what Mayer does really well is he's extremely vulnerable in his songwriting, and he's incredibly detailed. And it seems to me, I don't know him at all, but it seems to me like he's a bit of a perfectionist from a songwriting standpoint. And even like this last record, Sob Rock, I just haven't been able to quit listening to it. It's so real and it's so honest. And man, the songs are so relatable. It's something that every song is something that everybody's felt at some point in their life. And so I've always tried, Chris Knight is kind of the same way, man. It's unbelievably raw, honest songwriting. And I know, for Mayer, it's poppier and more contemporary style of music, but where the songs come from are the same place. And so I've always tried to write from that place. And I feel like, if me and those guys ever got together, we could probably talk for a long time about songwriting, because I like to think that, all my songs come from that same part or from that same place.